Shockwaves rippled through the Strait of Hormuz as reports emerged of a dramatic missile strike targeting a United States naval escort formation, accompanying a critical oil tanker through the strategic waterway. Sources monitoring maritime activity and regional security confirm that the convoy, navigating this narrow but vital shipping corridor, came under attack from what Iranian officials describe as new-generation anti-ship missiles launched from positions along the Iranian coastline. The timing of this incident underscores the heightened volatility of the strait, a place already recognized as one of the most sensitive and strategically precarious locations in the world due to escalating tensions between Iran and the U.S.-Israel alliance. Observers report that the tanker transporting crude oil from the Persian Gulf was under close protection as it attempted passage, with 3 American warships forming a defensive perimeter around the vessel. These ships, including an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser, and an Avenger-class mine countermeasure vessel, are routinely deployed together during high-risk maritime operations, combining missile defense, long-range detection capabilities, and mine-clearing functions to mitigate threats in confined waterways. Despite the protective measures, the convoy reportedly suffered a coordinated assault from coastal missile batteries, which, according to Iranian sources, utilized advanced anti-ship missiles capable of flying low over the water and maneuvering at high speeds to evade radar detection. Military analysts note that such flight profiles present enormous challenges for naval defenses, leaving very little reaction time before impact. Iranian officials emphasize that these weapons represent a new generation of precision systems designed to counter modern naval capabilities, incorporating advanced guidance that can adjust trajectories in real time to track moving targets. Eyewitness accounts and satellite tracking data circulated among maritime observers suggest that the strike caused severe damage to both the escort vessels and the tanker itself, with multiple explosions and fires reported along the shipping corridor. Plumes of smoke were visible for miles, marking the area as a zone of intense destruction and immediately signaling the serious risks that commercial shipping now faces in the Gulf. The timing and location of the strike are far from coincidental. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical oil transit routes, linking the Persian Gulf to international shipping lanes that feed energy markets across Asia, Europe, and beyond. Roughly 20% of global oil supply passes through this narrow waterway daily, making any disruption a potential shock to international energy markets. Since the escalation of tensions earlier this year, shipping activity has dropped dramatically, with many vessels waiting outside the Gulf rather than risking passage, while insurance companies have elevated risk ratings for ships in the region. Iran has repeatedly warned that it possesses the ability to control access to the strait, a threat that markets and governments alike have taken seriously, knowing that even a brief disruption in oil flow could trigger surges in energy prices, ripple through transportation networks, and strain global supply chains. Analysts monitoring the strike note that the attack also involved aerial activity. Radar data reportedly captured several aircraft flying at low altitudes near the engagement zone before returning to Iranian airspace. While the exact role of these aircraft remains uncertain, some analysts speculate that they may have provided targeting support, relayed real-time information, or coordinated the timing of missile launches. The combination of land-based missiles and potential air support highlights a growing sophistication in Iranian maritime strike capabilities, demonstrating that future confrontations in the Gulf could involve multi-domain operations designed to overwhelm defenses. The broader military and geopolitical implications of this strike are profound. A confrontation involving naval forces in the Strait of Hormuz has long been considered one of the most dangerous scenarios for regional stability. The strait's narrow geography severely limits maneuverability for large warships, while its surrounding coastlines provide ideal locations for missile batteries, drones, and surveillance systems. This strategic vulnerability has been recognized for decades. Yet the current escalation, with the reported deployment of new-generation anti-ship missiles, marks a notable intensification. The presence of U.S. naval assets, coupled with Iran's demonstrated ability to strike them in such a confined corridor, raises the stakes for both operational readiness and political signaling. If incidents like this continue, the possibility of further escalation cannot be dismissed. The United States and its allies may respond by deploying additional naval forces to safeguard commercial shipping lanes, potentially including aircraft carriers, destroyers, and reconnaissance aircraft moving closer to the strait. Simultaneously, Iran could expand patrol operations along its coastline, positioning fast attack boats, coastal missile batteries, and reconnaissance systems throughout the waterway. Such movements would effectively transform the Strait of Hormuz into one of the most heavily militarized maritime corridors in the world, where even routine commercial activity carries extraordinary risk. The economic consequences of continued instability in the strait are equally significant. Disruptions to oil flow could send global energy prices soaring, increase transportation costs, and strain supply chains, with impacts felt far beyond the Middle East. Financial markets respond rapidly to perceived threats to energy supply, and any prolonged closure or interference in the strait could reverberate through the global economy within hours. For governments, security analysts, and energy companies, the current crisis reinforces a long-standing reality. Stability in the Gulf is fragile, and even a single escalation can trigger cascading effects across multiple continents. From a military perspective, the strike represents a highly sophisticated application of modern precision warfare. Anti-ship missiles designed to fly at high speed close to the surface, potentially guided by real-time targeting information from aircraft or other sensors, demonstrate a level of operational capability that significantly challenges traditional naval defenses. Radar and interception systems may detect incoming threats only moments before impact, leaving minimal time for defensive measures. Analysts note that the combination of missile maneuverability, low-altitude flight, and potential aerial coordination signals a new chapter in regional maritime conflict, one in which conventional strategies may no longer suffice, and rapid adaptation becomes essential for both defense and deterrent. Beyond the immediate tactical and economic implications, the strike carries broader symbolic and strategic weight. By demonstrating the ability to target a U.S.-escorted commercial vessel, Iran sends a clear message about its capacity to influence maritime operations in one of the world's most vital waterways. It underscores Tehran's intent to assert strategic leverage, not only against military forces in the region, but also within the global economic system. In a world where energy security is intertwined with geopolitical stability, such demonstrations of capability resonate far beyond the Strait of Hormuz, compelling policymakers, military planners, and commercial operators to reassess risk, readiness, and contingency measures. As the aftermath of the strike continues to unfold, satellite monitoring, intelligence reporting, and maritime surveillance will play critical roles in determining the full scale of the damage and its implications. Governments, energy markets, and shipping companies are already weighing contingency plans, rerouting shipments, and reviewing protective measures. Analysts emphasize that the incident serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of strategic choke points in global trade and the need for constant vigilance when tensions rise between major regional powers. The Strait of Hormuz, by virtue of its geography and global significance, remains an enduring flashpoint, an arena where a single miscalculation can have far-reaching consequences for regional security, global energy stability, and international relations. For now, all eyes remain on the waters of the Gulf, as governments, militaries, and markets grapple with the reality that what happens in these narrow, contested channels does not stay regional. The events of the past hours highlight the intersection of military capability, geopolitical signaling, and global economic dependence. In a world where maritime choke points can influence the flow of energy and the calculus of war, the recent strike against the U.S. escorted oil tanker is more than an isolated incident. It is a moment that encapsulates the profound risks inherent in the Gulf today, a warning that the balance of power, security, and commerce remains precarious, and that the next escalation could have consequences felt from the Persian Gulf to the farthest reaches of global markets. As the smoke cleared from the immediate strike, the global community began to grasp the full implications of what had just occurred in the Strait of Hormuz. Governments and security analysts scrambled to assess the damage not only to the U.S. escorted tanker and its protective vessels, but also to the broader strategic equilibrium in the Persian Gulf. The attack underscored a stark reality. The delicate balance of power in the region was increasingly fragile, and the introduction of advanced anti-ship missile technology by Iran had tilted the scale in ways that could not easily be undone. The immediate concern was clear commercial shipping had become a high-risk enterprise, and even vessels under military escort were no longer assured safe passage through one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. In Washington, Pentagon officials convened emergency briefings to evaluate next steps. Intelligence assessments were underway to determine whether the strike represented a coordinated, standalone operation or part of a broader strategy signaling a new phase of regional confrontation. The strike raised urgent questions about U.S. naval readiness in confined waterways, the effectiveness of existing missile defense systems against low-flying, high-speed precision weapons, and the potential need to reposition forces to deter further Iranian action. The possibility that Iran had successfully demonstrated a capability to threaten critical shipping lanes sent ripples through allied governments, energy markets, and military planners across Europe and Asia. Meanwhile, Tehran framed the operation as a calculated response to what it described as ongoing military pressure from the United States and Israel. Iranian media highlighted the sophistication of their missile systems and emphasized the defensive rationale, claiming that they had the ability to disrupt maritime operations near their coastline if provoked. The message was unambiguous. Iran could and would assert control over its maritime approaches, and any further escalation in the region could carry serious consequences for global shipping and energy security. The narrative was carefully constructed, not just to demonstrate technical capability, but also to send a political signal, one designed to reshape calculations in Washington, Jerusalem, and beyond. The economic reverberations were immediate. Global oil prices spiked in response to the attack, with futures markets reflecting fears of prolonged disruption in the Persian Gulf. Analysts warn that even a temporary closure of the Strait of Hormuz could ripple through transportation networks, supply chains, and energy-dependent economies around the world. Shipping companies began adjusting routes preemptively. Insurers revised risk assessments, and governments monitored strategic reserves to hedge against the sudden volatility. The event reminded the world that stability in the Gulf is not merely a regional concern, it is a linchpin for global economic security. Simultaneously, the attack provoked questions about escalation and deterrence. If Iran had demonstrated the ability to strike effectively at a U.S. escorted convoy, what would prevent additional, more ambitious operations targeting strategic naval assets or critical infrastructure? U.S. and allied military planners faced the challenge of calibrating a response that would signal resolve without triggering a broader conflict. The potential for miscalculation loomed large, particularly in a region where a single incident can ignite cascading confrontations involving multiple state and non-state actors. The dynamics of escalation were now compounded by the presence of next-generation weaponry capable of overwhelming traditional defensive measures. International reactions were swift and pointed. European and Asian governments issued statements urging de-escalation and emphasizing the importance of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open for global commerce. At the same time, military analysts highlighted the need for robust contingency planning, noting that advanced anti-ship missiles, coastal defenses, and air support networks could quickly transform a narrow waterway into a militarized flashpoint. The attack served as a sobering reminder of how technology is reshaping strategic calculations, making maritime corridors that were once considered manageable now potential zones of crisis, with global ramifications. On the operational level, the U.S. Navy reportedly initiated emergency protocols to restore command, control, and communication across the affected area. Naval task forces were repositioned, reconnaissance assets deployed, and air defense systems heightened to ensure rapid response to any subsequent threats. For the crews on the remaining operational vessels, the incident underscored the inherent danger of operating in a constrained and contested maritime environment. The human element, the sailors, officers, and logistical personnel, was inseparable from the larger strategic picture, as their actions and responses would determine whether escalation could be contained or inadvertently intensified. From a geopolitical perspective, the attack marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing Iran-U.S.-Israel confrontation. It illustrated the interplay between military capability and political signaling, demonstrating how a localized strike could reverberate across international arenas. The incident also highlighted the limits of conventional deterrence. Missiles capable of evading traditional defense systems challenge assumptions about vulnerability, forcing a reevaluation of both strategy and posture. Governments and analysts alike began considering the broader implications: how regional tensions might affect energy markets, how alliances would respond, and how the advent of advanced missile technology could reshape power dynamics in the Middle East. In the hours following the strike, it became clear that the event was more than a tactical engagement. It was a strategic message. Iran had signaled not only its willingness to defend its maritime approaches, but also its ability to project force in a way that disrupted global commerce and challenged the strategic calculus of major powers. For policymakers, the incident was a reminder of the interconnectedness of military action, energy security, and economic stability. The Strait of Hormuz is not merely a geographic bottleneck. It is a critical artery of global trade, one whose disruption can have consequences extending far beyond the region. As the world watched, analysts debated the potential trajectories of the conflict. Would the U.S. and its allies increase military presence to deter further Iranian strikes? Would Iran continue to assert its control over the strait through additional missile tests or demonstrations of capability? The answers were uncertain. But what was undeniable was that the risk of further escalation had increased dramatically. The strike had shattered any illusions of security in the Gulf, proving that even heavily escorted commercial vessels were vulnerable and that the balance of power in the region was more fragile than previously understood. Ultimately, the events in the Strait of Hormuz exemplify the complexities of modern geopolitical conflict, where conventional military measures intersect with cutting-edge technology, regional politics, and global economic dependencies. The strike serves as a stark reminder that in today's interconnected world, a localized action can rapidly transform into a global concern, influencing markets, alliances, and the broader calculations of power. As Iran, the United States, and Israel navigate the aftermath, the lessons of this incident will resonate far beyond the Persian Gulf, shaping strategy, policy, and military planning for years to come. The final takeaway is clear. The Strait of Hormuz remains a flashpoint of immense strategic significance. The recent missile strike is not merely a momentary event, but a reflection of a broader reality where technology, geography, and geopolitics converge to produce a volatile and high-stakes environment. The world now faces a stark choice: carefully manage tensions to prevent further escalation, or risk a confrontation whose consequences could ripple through the global economy, alter regional power balances, and redefine the calculus of modern naval warfare. The coming days and weeks will test the prudence, readiness, and resolve of all parties involved, as the Persian Gulf once again proves itself to be a theater where the fate of energy security, regional stability, and international power is actively contested.